There is a glimmer of hope visibly witnessed in downtown Kampala as the economy gradually rebounds from the ramifications of the COVID-19 pandemic and the geopolitical conflict in Ukraine.
Some new businesses have emerged because, as you know, the business community is the largest employer of people who are non-professionals, professionals, retired, the young ones released from schools.
Business is on a recovery trajectory, which is needed to generate taxes to fund service delivery, as nearly a third of the revenue collected by Uganda Revenue Authority is spent on meeting Uganda's debt obligations. For the past 2 weeks, Ugandans on social media, specifically Twitter, have, through pictures and stories, told under the hashtags Kampala Pothole Exhibition and Uganda Health Exhibition, used cyberspace to showcase poor service delivery. To deal with the public antipathy, the relevant authorities laid the blame on government for providing shoestring budgets that can barely pay for services.
KCC needs anywhere between 75 to 100 billion annually in order to be able to effectively maintain our roads, and yet we get only Uganda shillings 26 billion for the whole year.
Uganda's annual population growth rate stands at 3.2%, which means that the economy needs to grow nearly at double-digit figures to be able to provide services. It also needs to generate enough revenue to be able to pay its debts and interest, as it is estimated that by the commencement of this financial year, debt to GDP ratio will eclipse the 50% threshold. Andrew Chambade, a tax expert and lawyer with Godena Associates, says with dwindling loans from the Bretton Woods institutions that provide long-term concessional lending rates, the government needs to collect more tax.
The people are the government, and the government does not make money except from its people. So the rationale mainly is revenue collection. And each time or every year as the country grows, there are those areas where people are starting to make money or different innovations. So the government wants to tap into those areas and make sure it gets more money.
Uganda's tax register has approximately 3.3 million taxpayers, 70% of whom are in the formal sector. These are the people whose taxes cater for a population of almost 46 million. In the current financial year, Uganda Revenue Authority's target for revenue collection is 25.4 trillion shillings. However, by mid-April, only 17.5 trillion shillings had been collected. This means that many taxpayers in the informal sector are slipping through the net, and usually the tax burden is shifted to the few in the formal sector, akin to killing the goose that lays the golden egg. Augustine Rangabusiwa has since 2007 been dealing in electrical items at Energy Plaza in downtown Kampala. He says, given a chance, many importers, including himself, would exploit the loopholes in the tax system not to pay tax.
Guyitiridde obungi gutusinze obuzito era abantu abasinga wano boolaba bano abakyali mu maduuka tuli mu gambling ya jangu nkwekule nti onoonya agwa n'omugula n'otunda ebyo oba bigwa n'onoonya omulala agwa n'omugula kakati bye tuli mu gavumenti tennakiraba.
In a 2022 Sauti za Wananchi survey carried out by Twaweza East Africa to collect citizens' views and experience on business and the tax environment in Uganda, about 30% of citizens said tax evasion in Uganda is common. Busiwa says that the import duty on a 40-foot, 27-ton container of electrical appliances has been steadily growing until 2021, when it came to 103 million shillings.
Container osobola gisubule milioni 5 oba 10. Uganda nekusaba milioni 2 oba 3. Nze naleetako fuuti 6 ez'ebintu nga nziguza obukadde 6 wane bansabe milioni 63. Owulidde nengenda ku revenue ne baga nti bwe tugezaako okunyigiriza oli mu milioni nga 46. Nenge ebintu biguze milioni 6.
Robert Wamala Romanyuka, URA's acting manager for public and corporate affairs, says the assessment of how much tax a business is supposed to pay is primarily the role of the business owner But if he or she fails to do so, then URA will undertake its own computation.
If I am able to ascertain that your neighbor, for example, is earning this much, I have that assumption that you're also earning that much. Secondly, I can ascertain based on the rent that you pay. I look at the rent, I look at the expenses you incur. I'm able to work backwards and know this is probably how much this particular person is earning as their income. Or sometimes I can even do a mystery shopping. I actually come and buy, and I'm able to see how many clients you have. And sometimes the assessments may be excessive because we are not getting the true picture. We're using assumptions to arrive at this chargeable income upon which tax is charged.
Issa Sechito, the spokesperson of Kampala City Traders Association, says that has led to opaque practices and non-compliance, which leads to low taxes collected.
It is not bad to avoid some taxes. It is only bad to smuggle, it's bad to completely stop. The equating factor would be that if all harmonization incentives were equal, we would compete. But now, big named taxpayers can ask for incentives from the ministry or even from higher political circles than the ministry, and they achieve them. For you, the medium and small category, you cannot access either the presidency or the ministry, and therefore you remain paying while the big ones are out of the scope. They are not paying. They are exempt.
Sechito revealed that while countries in the East African community agreed to zero import duty on smartphones, Uganda imposes a regressive 35% import duty on all smartphones entering the country.
For example, if you say you are going to produce radios here, and therefore you raise the taxes on radios imported or TVs, like which raw material is locally produced that makes a radio. So you are increasing the taxes in rates and values so that you protect non-existing companies or factories.
From the 1960s until 1986, Uganda pursued an import substitution policy, introducing several measures to protect the local industries. Today, however, in a bid to reach the much-voted middle-income status, the government is once again pursuing an import substitution policy.
If we have a company, Guy's Electronic Works. Guy's Electronic Works is a manufacturer. It is an assembler of television sets. Now, if we have such a company assembling TVs, we need that company to be protected, because if you allow these items to come from wherever they come from at the same rates, Guy's Electronic Works will be outcompeted. And remember, when a company is operating here, it is providing employment to the Ugandans. It is increasing the purchasing power of many of us. So government looks at the holistic picture and then decides to increase the tax rate for certain items to regulate their consumption.
While the import substitution strategy is intended to protect local industries, it promotes protectionist policies using the tax system, which creates economic distortion. Besides, import taxes remain a major source of revenue in most developing countries.
You want to protect the local industries against the foreign competition, but you must create a balance, because also the foreigners will do the same in your country, in their country, so you will have a problem. Definitely, a country you cannot be fully closed and say, I'm only going to rely on my local people.
With a small population facing a large tax burden on their shoulders, what deft policymaking is required to expand the tax base so that the country can be able to generate more revenue to sustain its budget and improve service delivery? In the 2023-2024 financial year, the URA plans to collect 29.3 trillion shillings in revenue. To this end, several new tax bills have been tabled in Parliament by the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. These include the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2023, Excise Duty Amendment Bill 2023, Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2023, Tax Procedures Code Amendment Bill 2023, Traffic and Road Safety Act Amendment Bill 2023 and the Lotteries and Gaming Amendment Bill 2023.
When someone looks at the taxman, they're looking at someone who is actually taking away a part of their profit, which is true, but remember it is a constitutional obligation, and also government must function. And actually, comparatively with the different countries in East Africa, you'll find that Uganda has the lowest tax rates. We just need to cultivate a behavior, a culture that loves doing the right thing, okay, and being honest.
One of the major principles of taxation is that it should be fair, but not regressive. These bad tax policies have led to a high business attrition rate as many firms continue to shutter in a market with high interest rates and limited venture capital for startup companies and small businesses.
It is very difficult for you to be a supplier in the small and medium category because there is this law that allows the withholding tax and part of VAT. Many businesses open up. The success is usurped by the tax regime, deliberately and incidentally. At the end of the day, all initiatives by the people to be good entrepreneurs are not surviving to sustain them.
There are no high taxes that are forcing people out of business. Taxes at the peripheral end of a chain of distribution of production. Before someone pays the tax, the income tax and any other tax, they first of all need to manage the business operations. Many companies or businesses were finding a problem with other issues and not tax. They're finding an issue with capital. Many do not have access to capital. They're finding an issue with the COVID-19 that affected many business operations. They're finding with other expenditures.
According to the Sauti za Wananchi survey, 7 out of 10 citizens, which is 67%, now say paying tax is important, irrelevant of the quality of public service, up from 5 out of 10 in 2019.
We have lesser taxes than they are in America, but the government cares about the people and they do not feel the pinch of the tax. So the service delivered, of course, I cannot say it is good. It is wanting. As a general tax principle, there's a statement or there's a principle called non quid pro quo, that in taxation, you do not expect to receive a benefit that is equal to what you have paid.
It is unavoidable for tax authorities to shoulder some blame for the decisions and performance of other sectors of government. Earlier this month, the Daily Monitor newspaper reported that the Inspectorate of Government had opened wide-ranging investigations into allegations of corruption, abuse of office, and tax evasion at URA, where it is feared that the country may have lost billions of shillings.
We have started investigations, but I do not want to preempt our investigations by giving out too much information.
There's what I would call inequalities in income. You find that those people who are well placed are able to have a share of such monies. There are allegations of people in different offices who get that money. So the reason will be, why should I pay tax from my business for it to go to Bad Black, or Full Figure, or for it to go to Bebekul, or for it to go to Balam?
A 2018 Fair Tax Monitor report released by Oxfam, Siatini, and other members of the Tax Justice Alliance Uganda indicated that Uganda's tax system is widening the inequality gap. Unfair tax exemptions to large multinational corporations means few taxpayers shoulder the tax burden, while significant amounts of potential revenue remains uncollected due to these tax breaks. This loss of revenue, coupled with a high expenditure rate, means generations of Ugandans are bound to keep repaying public debt at the expense of social sector development and service delivery improvements. If the government is to improve service delivery to its citizens, it is important to create an environment that enables citizens to form and run businesses, to be able to pay taxes, and the tax body ought to roll out a progressive tax regime. Gillian Nantume, NTV, Panorama.